to this tutorial where we will dive into deploying a GuestBook application on Kubernetes. In this video, we will explore the architecture, understand how the components interact, and walk through the deployment process step by step. Let's get started. Here, the architecture of our GuestBook application. Let's break it down into two main parts, the control plane and the worker node. The control plane is responsible for managing the cluster. The key components here are the Kube API server, which is the central management entity receiving and processing the request. The etcd, the distributed key value store that maintains the cluster state. The Kube control manager, which ensures the system's desired state is maintained. The Kube scheduler, which assigns workloads to the worker loads. The worker node is where our application actually runs. It contains kubelet, which is responsible for communicating with the control plane. Container runtime, which runs our application container. The container network interface enabling the network communication. The actual Redis pod and the Flask pod, each managed by the Kubernetes deployment and service, are run in the worker node. The internal communication between the pods are maintained by the cluster IPs. Now let's look at the YAML configuration files that define our deployments and services. Here is the Flask deployment YAML file. It defines a single replica of our application, exposing it on port 5000. Next, the Flask as service file, which ensures that our app can be accessed via NodePort. For Redis, we have the similar deployment YAML file defining the pod and a service YAML exposing it with the internal cluster. Now let's deploy our GuestBook application step by step. First, we apply the Redis deployment and service. Before that, we have to run the Minikube in our system. To check the status of the Minikube, I am going to put a command. Here you can see that the Minikube is running in our system. Now we will get into the K8s file folder. Okay. Here we will deploy the Redis deployment YAML file. Next, we will deploy the Redis service YAML file. Similarly, we will deploy the Flask deployment in the Flask service YAML file. Now we will watch the creation of the pods using the command. Okay, you can clearly see both the pods which we are deployed using the YAML files started running. Okay, let's verify that everything is working correctly. We can see from the Kubernetes events that the Redis pods were scheduled, pulled, and started successfully. Similarly, the Flask pods was also created, pulled, and started without any issues. Now let's get the external NodePort and test our application using a browser. you can clearly see that our GuestBook application is working fine. Here is our GuestBook application. Is up and running. Users can submit the messages and they are stored in the Redis. The Flask app retrieves them dynamically. Now we will check whether the messages are stored in the Redis pod correctly or not. For that, first we will get the pods which are running in our Minikube. Okay, you can clearly see both the pods are running perfectly. Now we will get into the Redis pod. Okay, now we are running into Redis pod. Here we have to get the messages stored into the it. For that, we are going to use a command. Okay, here you can clearly see the two messages which are given in the front end is stored in the Redis pod. Now we will try to give another message. Now we will check the same message. Okay, you can clearly see that the messages are stored into the Redis pod. So our application is working fine.